So he did not encourage the mood of professional Bhagavatam reciters who simply went directly to their pastime or focused extensively on it. He also did not encourage us to, when reading the Bhagavatam, to jump straight to it. But he different points he said, and he writes in the Bhagavatam also, that one should do that one should be systematic about it. So since we are in the association of practicing devotees, and at least the discussion that I hope to have is, as our general mode is, more in terms of what are the lessons that are there for us, what are the points of inspiration there for us. So with the mercy of Guru and Vaishnavas, I'll speak a little bit about it. So we'll start with the Mangalacham prayers. Om Ajnanatimindasya Jnananjanakshalankaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudhpadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saguna Raghunatam Vedam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saguna Lalita Shri Vishakhavitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopalapata Radha Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sule Devi Pranamami Harihe Mancha Kalpatarupayasya Kripa Sindhu Devacha Haridana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this pastime, which is also known as Gopi Geet, it appears in the 10th canto, and there are 5 chapters that covers this, from chapter 29 to chapter 33. So I'll actually read the first verse from the chapter 29, and then we can have some discussion on it. But this is 10:29, chapter 29, chapter verse 1. Shri Vradrayanirvacha Bhagavan Pitaratri Sharadafala Malikaha Vikshayarantum Manaschakre Yogamayam Upashitaha. Shri Bhadrayani said, Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full in all opulences. Yet, upon seeing those autumn nights scented with blossoming jasmine flowers, he turned his mind towards loving affairs. To fulfill his purposes, he employed his internal potency. So, Sukadeva Goswami, he begins this recitation, and as is expected for a person of his level of advancement, that he is first framing the pastime, because in spirituality, the message is probably as important as the context in which it is framed. So he's going to great lengths to frame it so that when the pastime is spoken, it is received in the same context. So he begins by saying Shri Badrayani. So Shri Badrayani is, so this is of course Sutta Goswami speaking to the sages in Naimisharanya. So he's saying Shri Badrayani, so he's referring to Sukadeva Goswami. And by calling him Badrayani, he is reminding the audience of the exalted lineage. So Sukadeva Goswami is the son of Srila Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is known as Badrayani with a short A, and because his son is known as Badrayani. So the ashram of Srila Vyasadeva, which is by the banks of the river Saraswati in Badrinath. And the reason it's called Badri is because Badri is another name. Badra is, in India you must have seen bale, so they are the round hard shell. So the place is where a lot of bale trees grow. So because there are a lot of Badra Vrakshas, so that place is known as Badrika Ashram. And that is where Srila Vyasadeva, he sat and did his meditation. That's where he received the instruction from Narad Muni to write Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why he actually wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. After he wrote the Bhagavatam, he wanted to give it to a suitable receptor to disseminate. And even though Srila Vyasadeva had so many exalted disciples, he had Kaila Rishi, Jaimini Rishi, he had Romaharshan, Vaishampaya Muni, very, very exalted sages. But considering the Bhagavatam to be the jewel of the scriptures, he was not satisfied. So in his ashram, he sat and he performed austerities for a long time. And the fruit of that austerities was that Sukadeva Goswami was born, also known as Badrayani. And then we know that how Srila Vyasadeva, he gave the Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami sat on the banks of in Naimisharanya, on the banks of river Ganges, and spoke it to Parishad Maharaj. And in the audience was Sutta Goswami. And then later on, Sukadeva Goswami spoke it at Shukratal. And then after that, Sutta Goswami, he spoke it to the 80,000 sages, 88,000 sages in Naimisharanya. So Sutta Goswami is speaking what Sukadeva Goswami spoke. So he is saying Shri Badrayani to say that the following set of events that I will recount to you has been spoken by none other than the great sage Sukadeva Goswami, who is none other than the son of the great sage Srila Vyasadeva. So he is saying you should not consider this to be a mundane matter. So when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the audience, some of the greatest personalities in the universe were there. Narad Muni was there, Srila Vyasadeva was there, Atri was there, Vasishta Muni was there. So greatest in many, many ways. There was the Brahma Rishis who were there. There was Vishwamitra, who was famous for his austerities. There was Jaimini, who was famous for his knowledge. So there were sages who were famous for their devotion. Narad Muni was there for their gyan, for their understanding of the scripture. And in front of them, Sukadeva Goswami speaks. So there is an exalted speaker and there is an exalted audience, so that one can understand the subjects that will be spoken will also be exalted. The primary audience was Parishad Maharaj. And Parishad Maharaj was a crest jewel of Vaishnavas. So while he was in the womb of his mother Uttara, he had personally witnessed Krishna. Because Krishna had entered the womb of Uttara to protect him from the Brahmastra that was thrown by Ashwatthama. And that is one reason why he was called Parikshit, was because when he came out, he kept searching for Krishna everywhere. Parikshit means to examine. So he was also spiritually very discriminating. But one reason he is called Parikshit is because he looked for the same form of Krishna in everything. And when this segment of the Bhagavatam is spoken, Parikshit Maharaj has only 3 days to live. So of the 7 days, 4 days have already gone by. So he is much closer to his end. So the acharyas say that one can only imagine the gravity of the conversation. There is a great speaker, there is a great audience, there is a great Vaishnava, and he is close to his death. So at that time, the subject that will be spoken would be very, very relevant to one making spiritual advancements. So Sukadeva Goswami says, Bhadrani Vacha Bhagavan Apita Ratri. So if you notice in the 10th canto, Krishna is not very often addressed as Bhagavan. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that there are 2 categories of names of Krishna. They are called Gauna and Mukhya. So Gauna is with relation to his Srishti Leela. So when he is doing the creation or the maintenance pastimes, so names like Jagannath, that he is the maintainer of the universe, or Janardhana, that he is the killer of the enemies or the maintainer of the people, or Bhagavan, or Paramatma. So these are all are his secondary names, because they talk about Krishna's potencies, Krishna's power. And then there is Mukhya names. Their Mukhya names are with respect to Krishna's Madhurya Leela. So they are with respect to, so they are like Yashodananda, or Radhakanta, or Govinda. So they are related to his leelas. So generally in the 10th canto, where Krishna's more intimate pastimes are discussed, then either the name Krishna is used or Yashodanandan. So and Krishna likes this. Now it's like there's a person who's a judge, and when he goes to office, then people call him Your Honor or Sir, or by his different titles, and they're appropriate. But when he comes home, he does not like to be called Your Honor or Sir or whatever. He likes to be called father or grandfather or uncle, because those are the more intimate relationships that he has. But here, Sukadeva Goswami, he says Bhagwan api charati. So he is making this point that you should not confuse these pastimes to be ordinary pastimes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is personally enacting. So he wants to set the right mode. And this is the only place, these 2-3 verses is the only place he does that, but they're important verses, because through explicit and implicit indications, he is trying to drive this point home. And the acharyas say, because the audience are very, very spiritually advanced, they can pick up on all this, and they can also align themselves to the mood. So they understand that yes, these pastimes are being performed by Swayam Bhagwan. So we see the same mood setting at one other place. Does anybody know? There's another place we see the same kind of setting of a mood before an intimate pastime is discussed. To some extent, yes. So what I had in mind was when we sing the Damodar Ashtakam, it starts off with Namama Ishwaram Sachidananda Rupam. And right after that is Dasat Kundalam Gokule Rajman. So Satyaraj Muni starts with Namam Ishwaram. So the pastime that follows later on is a very sweet pastime of a small boy, Yashoda Biyolu, and in fear of Yashoda he ran, and description of Krishna's lips. But he prefaces it. He says Namami Ishwaram. He says don't misunderstand this to be a small ordinary boy who is running in fear of his mother. This is Namami Ishwaram Sachidananda Rupa. This is none other than the personality of God. And that is just to prevent us from committing offenses. That we see the later pastimes of Krishna and then we start thinking that when I was a child, I used to run in fear from my mother. When I was a child, my mother said I was very cute. So maybe same thing, similar thing with Krishna. But Namam Ishwaram Sachidananda Rupam. We may be all that, but we are not Ishwaram Sachidananda Rupam. So the same mood setting is also done over here. Then Bhagwan Apicha Cha Ratri. Then he says that upon seeing those autumn Malika flowers, the Malika flowers are the jasmine flowers. And the Acharyas, they point out that this particular pastime was done in Sharad Ritu, which is earlier on in October, when it is cold. So during that time, the jasmine flowers don't grow. They grow during Vasanta Ritu. They grow during spring. So how are they growing during this pastime? How is it that when Sharad Ritu is starting, the jasmine flowers are not only growing, they are blooming. So Sukhdev says that Yogamayam Upashrita. So he's saying all this is being done under the purview of Krishna's Yogamaya. So this is not Mahamaya. So Yogamaya is Krishna's internal spiritual potency. Sometimes people say that why did Krishna consort with the wives of other men? But the whole pastime is enacted between Krishna and his devotees within his own internal potency, within his own spiritual potency. And Sukadev Goswami gives subtle hints. He doesn't call it out, but we'll see later on he gives a few more hints. He says because things are not following the prakrit, the manifest nature. Why are Malika flowers growing in Sharad Ritu? They don't. Because of Yogamaya. Because Krishna's pastime is enacted by his internal potency. So he turned his mind towards loving affairs to fulfill his purposes. So purposes plural is used over here, and the point that is made is that when Krishna came, he accompanies many things at the same time. So in the Bhagavad Gita he gives us a glimpse. You know, he says that Pritranaya Sadhunam, Vinashaya Chatuskrita, Dhamsam, Samstarpanarthaya, these three things. But another reason that Krishna comes is for the explicit, to fulfill the explicit desires of his devotees. So the whole pastime is performed in response to the needs or the prayers of his devotees. Before the Rasalila was done, there was also the the pastime of Krishna stealing the garments of the gopis. And since that pastime had happened, the gopis had accepted Krishna in their heart as their husband. And their only singular prayer was that they wanted to associate with Krishna in that particular mood. And when the desires of the devotees became so strong, then it became the desire of Krishna. So that is the non-difference between Krishna and his devotees. That the desires of Krishna, so Krishna does not act according to the desire of his devotees. He makes those desires his own desires. So there is a difference. That a child might say to the mother, let's go out and play. And the mother might say, no, it's too hot, too cold, not yet. But the child might say, no, let's go. And finally mother will say, okay, let's go and play. So the child follows the desire the mother follows the desire of the child. But higher than that is that the mother herself begins to desire to play. That yes, once the child's desire becomes stronger, one says, yes, let's go out and play. Even I want to play. So that is Krishna's reciprocation towards his devotees. That he does not follow their desire. He makes their desire his own desire. And it is the same reciprocation that the devotees have towards Krishna. That Krishna's desire is their desire. In the initial stage, when we are in Vaidhi Bhakti, then we try to follow. That's why it's called Vaidhi. We practice. We try to follow. We try to understand that what would Krishna want from us. And we understand that through the instructions of the Guru and the Shastra. That this is what a Guru Maharaj would want us to do. This is what the scriptures. So they are expressing the desires of Krishna, and then we try to follow those desires. But when we become more advanced, then there is no realignment that is needed. Automatically, Krishna's desires become our desires. So that's when we go to the stage of Raga Bhakti, where we do it because we enjoy doing it. We don't do it because it is instructed in the scriptures. We don't do it because it's the instruction of the spiritual master or the sadhu, even though all that still remains. But we do it because we have made Krishna's desires our own desires. We enjoy doing it spontaneously. So this is Krishna's reciprocation that is indicated over here. That because the gopis wanted, Krishna wants the same things. So any questions, comments here? I'll go to the next question.
Just one point that the desire of Krishna is according to the devotees, and devotees might have different desire, which might, different in the sense. So for one person to fulfill everyone's desire at the same time is quite difficult. But what Krishna did this past time is he fulfilled everyone's desire. In the sense, who want to see him as the husband, he enacted that husband. Like Yashoda Maya, she wanted him as a son, so he enacted as a son as well. So that's the first time says that it's not only, it's not ordinary, it's extraordinary, because all the devotees' desire get fulfilled at the same time.
Yes. Thank you. That's a good point. And that's why Krishna is God, that he can simultaneously fulfill all the desires of everyone. And even if the desires are apparently contradictory. So this comes later on, but since you brought it up, that when the rasa dance is actually enacted, then Krishna personally dances with every gopi. And every gopi thinks that Krishna is only dancing with him. They don't see that Krishna is dancing with anybody else. So that is Krishna's potency. With the exception of Radharani. Radharani could see, but not the other gopis. Anything else?
On the desire part, like if we are getting some desire, so how do we know like it's the Krishna desire, like how to differentiate between the like our desire and the Krishna wants us to do?
Thank you, Prabhu. That's a good question. So the question is that if you're having a desire, how do we understand that this is our desire or this is Krishna's desire? So there are two ways. There are more ways, but two ways that I can think of. So one way is, as we had just spoken, that is this according to Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So we have a desire to theoretically speaking, we have a desire to steal, right? So we know it's not recommended in the Shastra. So we know it's not going to please Krishna. There was just talking about this particular case that when Srila Prabhupada was in the US, he noticed there was a temple in California that was collecting a huge amount of Lakshmi. And at that time, there was no congregation. The main way of getting Lakshmi was through book distribution. So he was very happy that they're collecting so much Lakshmi. So he went and he asked, how are you collecting, what is it that you're using, how are you collecting so much Lakshmi? So it turned out that they were distributing drugs. So they were not taking drugs, but they thought that it's for helping our Guru Maharaj, and these people will take drugs anyway. So might as well give them, and so they took all the money, they were giving it to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada said that Krishna does not need any money, he has all the money in the world. All he needs is you. So don't sacrifice yourself. And of course they were sincere devotees, so they stopped after that. So if our desires is something that is not in accordance with scriptures or sadhu, we know that. Second way is that if you're honest with ourselves, we ask this question, that will this help us make spiritual advancement? And generally either we can come to an answer ourselves, or with the help of our confidants, we can come to an answer. That will this desire help? Like there was somebody who wanted to put aside some money to buy lottery tickets. And the idea was, if you win a lottery ticket, we'll give it to ISKCON. And the Guru Maharaj said that the problem with that is that very soon you will be not able to see the difference between your own desire to gamble and gambling for Krishna. And because early stages of bhakti, more likely than not, you are nourishing your own desires to gamble. So it's a nature to desire. Nature of the soul is to desire, and that is perfectly fine. But being introspective about it, it protects us. Okay.
Well, I can think of something else, that whatever desire we are doing, the output of that, if we are offering to Krishna, then probably it is, we can relate that it's a desire of Krishna. But if the output we want to enjoy ourselves, then probably that also can give some indication whether the desire is our own.
Yeah, if you are genuinely detached from the output, then we can understand. It's like the example, like you buy a lottery ticket, you win the money. Even if you give the money, if you have this sense that I gave $1 million to ISKCON, or look at me, So then it still becomes commingled. But if you're genuinely detached, that I got this money, it's Krishna's energy being used in Krishna's service. So generally speaking, at our at practicing devotees stage, we try and stay by the rules and try and follow the rules and regulation. That's a safe place for us.
Yeah, Prabhu. So, on Vikas Prabhu's question, you presented both the things. If the difference is really in 0 and 1, then through introspection or through something on our own, we can make out. But if it's very subtle, and there are a lot of situations, even in devotees' life, that comes wherein whether to do this or this way or that way, and both are taking you towards Krishna, but then you can only select one. So I was just thinking, wouldn't it be a good idea to consult your Shiksha Gurus or Diksha Gurus in those situations rather than introspections and on your own, because it may come out wrong when you're trying to do it on your own.
Right. Yes, thank you, Prabhu. And yes, that is a valid point, that desires, can more often than not be very nuanced. Like, should I get up early in the morning and do my chanting, but then I get tired through the day, and then it makes me cranky, and it gets affected other places. So I should get up late and maybe chant some. It's a nuanced desire. There are pros and cons on both sides. So then best is, yes, to consult with. That's why peer association is very important. More important than association with Guru or Shiksha Guru is association with peers.
Okay.
Because 100%, whatever you're facing, another person has already faced or is facing or will face. There's a 100% hit rate over there. And that takes care of, that helps, that's a big safety net. And then of course, there is the shelter of the Guru, and then there is shelter of Sadhu and Shastra. So they're all shelters that are there.
I was just thinking about Anirudh Prabhu, because when he was leaving, he was thinking whether I should go because there's a better prospect. But he said he'll also lose the association of what he has established as a Namahata group over here.
Yeah.
So he was in my two minds, and then eventually. Yeah.
You're right.
With the point of Satyam Prabhu mentioned, the problem is like you get the example of drugs.
Yeah.
Because those devotees genuinely want to give the output to Krishna, but
Still there is some attachment. You have somebody is at a point where they are totally detached. They're really speaking, doing sinful activity is never acceptable. But even things like, buying lottery tickets or something like that, there's still some level of attachment there. Even if the person gives the money, the person will say that, I gave $1 million. Right? So it's a little bit of a slippery slope. Not necessarily. I mean, there are devotees who have given a lot of, when the Mayapur temple was being built or is being built, there are so many incidents that were shared of people getting inspired and donating more than what they could afford to. For a Potomac temple, there's one particular devotee, and she has pledged 4 times her annual salary, for the temple over a period of 5 years, but she has pledged 4 times her salary. And then we said, don't do that, but she said, don't stop me from doing it. So there are people who do that. They have their level of detachment, but special people.
One question was regarding how, when we say gambling, do we consider stock also as gambling? There's a lot of people do invest in stock and then.
It is. So this question has been asked a few times. General answer is that it depends on the mood in which you do it. you have a retirement account that goes to the stock market. No, so be it. It goes to the stock market. But you're playing the stock market. Morning you get up while you're chanting, you're checking Microsoft, and so how much you are absorbed in it. So the nature gambling, the real purpose for not encouraging it is because it develops a speculative mood in one's mind. And Prabhupada would say that gambling is not possible without telling lies. Even though in stock market probably it's not really that, not to that extent. But generally speaking, if you're gambling, you're sitting across the table, you have to lie to gamble.
Also, because whether it is gambling through stock market or drugs or lottery tickets or anything, it's dangerous also because it's addicted to it.
Yes.
So the thrill of it can be very dangerous. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
sometimes peaks and
Yeah, it is addictive.
so
It gets addictive.
can affect the
Yes.
consciousness.
So then it tends to consumer consciousness. You become stock conscious.
It is also said, Prabhu, right? The easy earned money will not fructify unless it's hard earned. And especially when you're using for a devotional purpose, I don't think easily earned, it's not even earned, easily got money.
It gets easily lost also.
Easily,
Yes.
multiple,
That's a
maybe
big
multiple
question.
times.
Easily earned or easily lost?
Yeah.
That's a question.
The
Yeah.
question
So
I
what-
ask because there are a lot of Gujaratis who actually run stock only. That's their job. They don't do anything else. Their whole time they are in stock exchange. That's what they do for their life, living also.
They're traders.
Traders.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like how you can involve them in stock exchange.
Maybe they might be using particular time or something, but the other people who are having jobs and other things, the bandwidth level will be higher, right? While it's
Yeah.
going, doing something, their mind will be there. Yeah, they have to check. So that is not a good idea. That mood is controlling, control.
Viduvati?
So Prabhu, like based on all this discussion, from a materialistic point of view, a person who is not involved in all of these, and for a devotee who's again not yet involved, the margin is, the level of expectation is not to be involved is the same. So like, so if you're a good person materialistically, so is it you are a good devotee that you can take into Krishna consciousness? But then on the other way, like when Prabhupada came in, there were a lot of people who were into it, like especially it was during the hippie era. But still they let it go and they became devotees. So like, I mean like where is the line between like the ones who he is practicing with devotee? Should you really like detach yourself completely? I mean, I think the materialistic person would also not think about gambling or buying a lottery ticket. I mean, in a general form.
So these are more. So these are things that bring one to the mode of goodness. They are not really spiritual aspects. They are things that are conducive to spirituality, right? So you were giving the example of Srila Prabhupada. So when he came, you're right. There were people who were doing everything, drugs and intoxication. But once they took to the process, they gave it up. Right, and then they followed it, because giving up all this is conducive to spirituality. But the opposite is not necessarily true. That just because you have given it up does not automatically make you a spiritual person. There are so many people who are very strongly in the mode of goodness. You especially see them in India, especially in the south actually. You'll see many people who are very, very strongly in the mode of goodness. Very, very difficult to preach to them. Almost impossible. Because they're very much into karma kand, they're very much into rituals, and they're very much self-satisfied. If a person is hurting, you can say, you are hurt, you have some hurt, let me give you something to solve it. And the person will say, okay, tell me something. But people who are in the mode of goodness, the quality of the mode of goodness is that it illuminates you from inside. It illuminates you by knowledge and renunciation, right? So you go to a person who's strongly in the mode of goodness and then say that, give it up to follow Krishna consciousness, and he will say, but I'm already satisfied. I'm already happy. I do my Sandhya Vandanams. I do some upchars. I do some mantras. I'm strictly vegetarian. I do a homa in the morning, and nothing else. I don't need anything else. So the opposite is not necessarily true. Now, of course, mode of goodness is also conducive to it. When such people take to spirituality, it's a very easy transition for them, because they don't have to change a lot. They just have to add something over. So when they take to it very quickly, but they don't take to it very often. Prabhupada's experience has been, when he was preached to the Smarta Brahmins, then even though they were philosophically very advanced, they knew a lot, they had read the Bhagavad Gita, they knew a lot, Prabhupada was superficially interact with them, because he knew they will not take to it. They would just come for mental gymnastics. You said this and this, that Acharya said this said this. You said this practice, you do Achman, doing one thumb and three fingers. We do it with two fingers and one thumb. What's the difference between the two? Prabhupada said, that's fine, just do whatever you do. Because he knew they would not take to it. Parents?
Because even if you do karma kanda and all, it is fruitive mentality. You want something. But fruitive mentality, is it the nature of mode of passion?
So the fruitive mentality is, in all the three modes, is very strong in the mode of passion. But that's why they're called gunas. Even the satogun, it's a guna, it binds you. And the nature of the ropes is the fruitive mentality. Right, in the Bhagavad Gita we know that when does karma become a karma? When a desire to enjoy the results of the karma disappears. Then karma becomes a karma. As long as the desire is there, as long as the fruitive mentality is there, it's a guna. Right? The only thing is that the nature of the expectation of enjoyment changes. In the mode of ignorance, it's sleep, lethargy, laziness. In the mode of passion, strong desire to succeed, strong desire to dominate. In the mode of goodness, pursuit of knowledge, establishing renunciation, but the desire is still there. That this is for me. Yeah?
So with karma kanda we can reach mode of goodness even without spirituality.
Oh, of course. In fact, karma kanda is for the mode of goodness. It is. That's the whole purpose of karma kanda. That it will elevate you to the mode of goodness. Right? Because karma kanda is all about being suchi, being regulated, surrendering to authorities, giving in charity. It's all about knowledge and renunciation. Yeah? It's just that we follow, because we follow Krishna consciousness, we condemn karma kanda, right? But actually it's very exalted. But we keep beating it, just like we keep beating down the devas, like Indra and Shiva and all that, right? But actually they're very exalted personalities. So same, we keep beating karma kanda, but karma kanda is very exalted. Very few people can actually practice karma kanda, right? But the reason we beat it down is because we want to anchor our mind into Shuddha Sattva. Right? So the next verse is, I won't read the Sanskrit. The moon then rose, anointing the face of the western horizon with a reddish hue of his comforting rays, and thus dispelling the pain of all who watched him rise. The moon was like a beloved husband who returns after a long absence and adores the face of his beloved wife with red kumkum. So Sukdev Goswami is now speaking a little bit more esoterically. He's setting the mood of the pastime that is going to be enacted. So he says Kakuba Karar. Kakuba Karar means that literally it means that with his own hands. So the verse is saying the moon with his own hands is caressing the directions or the horizons with the reddish hue. Now, as per scriptures, the horizons or the direction, they are considered to be the wives of sun. And Sukadeva Goswami, he's speaking about the moon caressing the directions. So he's indicating that what is going to happen is something on these lines. Because the rasa dance is between Krishna and the wives of other men. So not all the gopis were wives of other men. There were gopis who were never married. There were different categories of gopis. There were some gopis who were married but lived as if they were not married, and there were some gopis who had consummated the marriage. But the mood is there. So Sukadeva Goswami is giving a hint to the speakers through this wordplay, and also setting an intimate setting over here. So if you close your eyes and you imagine that the reddish hue of the moon is illuminating the horizons.
Do we know how many, the number of gopis who are there in Rasalila? Because we know that there are like unlimited number of gopis in evolution.
They don't give a number, but the acharyas say there are more than 1 billion gopis. And the rasa pastime, even though it went over one night, but it actually went for one night of Brahma. So it lasted for more than 4.3 billion years. And the understanding again is because it was conducted under Krishna's Yogamaya potency. So people would say that how can it happen in this limited, the Vraj Mandal, which is whatever it is, a few miles across, or how could it have happened in 12 hours in two pradhans or 3 pradhans? How could it have happened? But when Krishna employs a Yogamaya potency, anything can happen. So there were billions of gopis, and it happened. It went over billions of years.
Maybe beyond our comprehension.
Right. Amita?
You are thinking like it happened in Brazil, like the material world. But that is something different than this material world. Some different million of rupees. It's not possible. There must be some different world.
Right, and it says, in the Garg Samhita it says that when Krishna came, then he came with his lok. So the Vraj lok is not from the material world. Even the current Vrindavan, they say it's not of the material world. That's why Narad Muni is able to go and live over there. Because Narad Muni was cursed by Prajapati Daksh, that he says nowhere can you live for more than 3 days. And then he says that okay, I'll go and live in Vrindavan, it's not part of the material world. So he happily lives over there. When he was instructing Kayadu, for 36,000 years Hiranyakashipu was performing austerities, he was happily living over there. Because it's not part of the material world. Right? It is part of the spiritual world. Even when the 6 Goswamis were there, so Prabhupada Maharaj was sharing that if you look at the daily routine of like Sanatana Goswami, I forget the names of the places, but in the morning he would go from one place to another. He would give dandavats over there. He would do Govardhan Parikrama. He would come back to Vrindavan. He said if you add all the miles together, it's about 120 miles. But Sanatana Goswami would do the whole thing within a few hours, walking. And the example he gives is that Vrindavan is like a lotus flower. It can close down so everything comes close, and it can simultaneously open up so that billions of gopi can be over there. And the same thing, the time can contract and the time can expand. Okay. Because both time and distance, in the material world they are immutable, but in the spiritual world they are Krishna's energy. He can do whatever he wants. with it.
So even this is applicable now?
Even the current Vrindavan, they say it's not part of the material world, it's part of the spiritual world.
A couple of 100 years before. But then he from such activities that cannot be manageable in the material world is not but now some activity that is going on that can be
So I'm not able to hear you.
like now even those activities, similar kind of activities also happening this time around.
The Leela in Vrindavan is Nitya. It's always going on. Prabhupada would say that there is Prakrit and there is Aprakrit. And we go to Vrindavan, we see dirt and dust and pigs and dogs there. Devotees go to Vrindavan, they see gopis, they see kundas, they see beautiful flowers, they see groves over there. So you just have to have the eye to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to question Prabhuji when Sukdev Goswami was just narrating Bhagavatam and Namisaraya, all the 18, sorry, Sukdev Goswami, all the 80,000 rishis, they are familiar like Vasishtha, Marichi and other rishis. They came from different ones? Like from Sodalata?
So Bhagavatam, as you know, was spoken twice. When Sutta Goswami spoke, the 88,000 sages, they were associates or disciples of Shaunak Rishi. They were exalted souls, but they were Shaunak Rishi's associates and disciples. When Sukadev Goswami spoke in Shukratab, at that time, from all over the universe, sages, is described in the first canto, 19th chapter. From the 19th chapter, all over the universe, sages came to listen to the Bhagavatam. Okay, third verse. Lord Krishna saw the unbroken disk of the full moon glowing with red effulgence of newly applied vermilion, as if it were the face of the goddess of fortune. He also saw the kumud lotuses opening in response to the moon's presence, and the forest gently illuminated by its rays. Thus the Lord began to play sweetly on his flute, attracting the minds of the beautiful-eyed gopis. So, when Sukadeva Goswami describes the moon, he says Akhanda Mandalam. And one understanding of Akhanda Mandalam is because this was Sharad Purnima, so it's the day of the full moon. But then other acharyas, they say that you cannot call a full moon Akhanda Mandalam. Why? Because when the moon is full, then you can see all the black marks on the moon. So Khanda means things that break the continuity. Akhand means something that is unbroken, smooth. So they say that a full moon cannot be akhanda. So they again point to the fact that this is not the moon that we see. Everything was set by Krishna's Yogamaya potency. So Sukdev is saying Akhanda Mandalam, that this particular moon that was there is a moon from the spiritual world, is the moon that was established by. So when Krishna wants to do something, then Yogamaya, she makes all the arrangements. So Yogamaya in Vrindavan is who? Who's the personification of Yogamaya in Vrindavan? Is Purnamashi. Purnamashi, so she gives instructions to Vrinda Devi. And Vrinda Devi, under the instructions of Purnamashi, she makes all the arrangements. She has many servants, she has many parrots, and amongst them they make all the arrangements, the temperature, the music, the water, the trees, the grass, the groves. So similarly, the Yogamaya Upashrita, under the instructions of Yogamaya, Akhanda Mandalam, the unbroken moon manifested, and Krishna, seeing that the time was right, began to play the flute. So the playing of the flute, so how long do I have? How much time? I started at 7, I think so.
No, it's 8.
It's 8. Maybe I'll do another half an hour and stop after that. So then Krishna begins to play on his flute, Venu Gita. And the flute is also mentioned here, not only because it is Krishna's chosen instrument, but one of the questions that Acharyas ask is, why is the flute Krishna's favorite instrument? And there are so many instruments. There is the veena, there is the sitar, there is the tabla, but Krishna chose the flute. Why did Krishna choose the flute as his instrument? And the reason that they gave is that if you look at the flute has nothing. It is simply a hollowed out bamboo shoot with some holes in it. But when the person plays it, it plays completely according to the desire of the person. The sound that the flute produces is completely an extension of the person who is playing the flute. And the flute represents the mood of the devotees. So the devotees are not like sitars with complicated strings and different arrangements to do that, or not like a harmonium, which has, well, harmonium is it's not a Vedic instrument, but other instruments there which have complicated settings. But Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he tells Arjun that you become a nimit matra. Just become a simple, just become an instrument to me. And the flute has that mood. That when Krishna plays into it, it produces the most divine and intoxicating sound. But on its own, it's very simple. It's just a bamboo shoot with a few holes drilled into it. That's the mood of devotees. That they do only to facilitate the desires of Krishna. That if Krishna plays a good song, the flute plays a good song. If Krishna plays something else, the flute plays something else. So the sound of the flute, it spread all over Vrajasundari. And it reached the ears of the gopis. Only the gopis could hear the flute. Even though it spread all over Vraj, nobody else could hear it. Only the gopis could hear the sound of the flute. So our first introduction to Krishna is sound. So our introduction to Krishna in the sound form is in his holy name. The material universe, it manifests from which sound? Om. From Om comes the Gayatri. From the Gayatri comes the Vedas. From Om, from sound comes the more subtle elements. The sight, the sense of smell, touch, and from them the tattvas unfold, the pradhan is made. So sound is the most subtle and it's the most potent. Just like sound is very powerful in pulling us down. Right? You're going about having a good day, a good time. Somebody comes to you and says, "Man, you're ugly," and goes away. Now your day is going a different route. He didn't have to touch you, he didn't have to do anything, but just the power of sound. Leaders in the past, they have swayed millions of people just by the power of sound. So, and that is why we are so surrendered to the holy name, because it is our first personal introduction to Krishna. Even though Krishna is there in the scriptures, he is there in the Archa Vigraha, he is there in the devotees, he is there in the material nature, but what's that verse? Nama Chintamani Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinava Nama Namane. So the name of Krishna, Chintamani means that it is fulfilling all your desires. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Chaitanya means Chaitan, that it is fully sentient. It's not like any other name. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. And it has all the rasas in it. So, in our interaction with the holy name, the millions of rasas, the 5 main rasas, so many sub-rasas, they are all there. To some extent we experience that ourselves. Sometimes we chant, we feel good. Sometimes we chant, we don't feel that good. The holy name is churning so many different things at different levels within us, because it is Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, that it is conscious. That just like we are conscious when we are talking to another person, the conversation will not always go the way we expect it to go. The person may respond with something else, we may say something, the person may find it funny, the person may give some opinion, we may find that funny, or we may find that hurtful. So it's a sentient interaction. That's an interaction with the holy name. Rasa Vigraha, everything is there. Purna Shuddho, Nitya Mukto. It's not of the material world. Eternally liberated. And Abhinav Nama Namane. No difference between the name and the named. So through this sound, Krishna, he reaches through the heart, through the ear he reaches the heart of all the gopis. And then what do the gopis do? Does anybody know? What do the gopis do?
Just drop everything and run. Follow the sound.
Right. So the first thing that they do is that they drop everything. And Sukadeva Goswami actually, he speaks, I think, 3 verses about the gopis dropping everything. It's a little funny also, but the reason he like he says, there were some gopis who were milking and they left milking the cows. Some gopis who were taking care of children and they put the children down. There were some gopis who were serving their husbands and they just got up and left. So you can imagine the consternation. If somebody is sitting, your wife is serving a chapati, even before the chapati is on the plate, she's out of the door. And children were confused. They were with their mother. They were playing one time, and they turn around. The mother is out of the door. So this is the pull of spirituality. That the gopis were externally, and they say this later on, they were externally fully involved in Lokik pastimes. They were doing the activities that they were supposed to do. As mothers, they were taking care of children. As wives, they were taking care of husbands. As daughters, they were serving the elders and the parents. It was their dharma. It was their swadharma. But when Krishna called, they immediately abandoned their swadharma. So what's the other place where Krishna recommends us to do this?
Bhagavad Gita.
Hmm?
Bhagavad Gita, I teach you.
Where does he say that? Sarvadharma Pratyaja. So this is what Krishna is saying. So when he's saying Sarvadharma Pratyaja, he's talking about swadharma. That you have so many dharmas. Mam ekam sharanam vraj. That is the mood that the gopis were exemplifying. That they were doing so many activities that were enjoined of them because of their position. But as soon as they heard Krishna's flute, they abandoned it all. But there is no sin that is attached to it. So in the 11th canto, there is this verse that Srila Prabhupada liked to quote. Yatha tarur mula nishacanena tripyanti tat skanda bhujopatha pranoparat cha yathendriya tatheva sarvaranam achutejya. Yatha tarur mula nishacanena. So the analogy is given that tree, taror is a tree, that if you give water to the root of the tree, yatha tarur mula nishacanena tripyanti tat skanda bhujopashaka. It satisfies tat skanda, the trunk, bhujo, the branches, and shakha, the twigs. Then prano paragcha yathendriyana. When you eat food, you put food in your stomach, then all your indriyas, all your senses are simultaneously satisfied. Tatheva sarvaranam achuteja. Similarly, sarvaranam, all the worship that you can do, achuteja, is subsumed, is satisfied when achutya. So achutya is the name of Krishna. Ijai means worship. When you worship Krishna. So the worship of Krishna, so when Krishna says Sarvadharma Pratyaja, he's not being facetious, or he's not being he's not giving a temporary solution. It's not a stopgap kind of a thing. This is where our final resting place is. That initially there were people, when Prabhupada was there, they would do these small skits. And they had actually done a skit on this verse, Yatha tarur mula nishacanena, that there was a person and there was a tree, they would make a small tree, and there was a person who would come and say that I won't put water in the root of the tree, I'll put water on the leaves, I'll put water on the branches. And then another person who comes and says, I won't eat food, my hand is weak, so I'll put food on my hand, or I'm not able to think properly, so I'll rub food on my head. So it was like a comedy play. And then they would say, I'm still starving, and the tree is dying. So then finally they would say this, this verse. So so many duties we are bound with. But when we serve Krishna, all those duties are automatically executed. One of the other verses that Prabhupada really liked in this is, I'm trying to remember, Deva Rishi Bhutapta. Actually, if I Say it in meter, it's easier for me. Deva Rishi Bhutapta Nrinam Pitranam Na Kinkaro Nayam Rini Charajan Saratmana Yatha Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parihitya Kartam. So this was the word Prabhupada also writes, but he said Deva Rishi Bhutapta Nrinam Pitranam. So he said you're indebted to so many people. Devas, Deva, Rishis. Bhutapta means relatives. So we know we have so many relatives, and it's different ways we are indebted to. Deva, Rishi, Bhutapta, then Nrinam, Pitranam. Nrinam means mankind in general. You're living in a society. Pitranam, your Pitras. Those were departed. Then he says, Nayam Kinkara Na Rinim Charajan. But so Kinkara means service. But you have no service to them. Nayam Na Rinim. And you have no debt to them. Why? Sarvatmana Yatha Sharanam Sharanyam. If by all your Atma, Sarvatmana, all yourself, you Sharanam Sharanyam. You surrender to one who gives you shelter. So Krishna's another name is Sharanyam. He gives everybody shelter. So you take shelter from one who gives shelter. Gatha Mukundam Parihritya Kritam. And Gatam Mukundam. You go to Mukunda. Mukunda is Krishna's name, meaning one who gives liberation. Parihritya Kartam. Nothing else you have to do. Kartam is to do, Parihrit, nothing else you have to do. So the mood of the gopis in this, and that is why Krishna enacted this pastime, it's a very strong preaching mood. That by their own example, they are demonstrating that what does it mean to be a devotee of Krishna. And when the gopis, when they were heading towards the Rasamandal, Sukadeva Goswami says that some of them they were applying makeup. I think he uses the word Anjan. Anjan is kajal. But in their hurry, they smeared it all over their face. Some of them wore the garments opposite. In some cases, the cholis, they were not tied properly. Some cases, they were wearing one slipper, they were not wearing one slipper. This Sukadeva does not say, but the general expansion is, they were wearing one slipper, they were not wearing another slipper. But they all were heading towards the sound of the flute. They were all heading towards Krishna.
They didn't
So-
even know who was running with them. They were just so focused on that.
They didn't even know who was running with them. So that is, so devotion is not about perfection. Devotion is about intention. So they did not wear the best dancing clothes. They did not wear the best makeup. They did not comb their hair properly. So this was at late night. Most of them were doing their end of the day activities, retiring. And just in that they ran to Krishna. So devotion is not about perfection. We aspire to do the best that we can do. But devotion is about intention. If there is any perfection that we want to bring in our devotion, it's the perfection of intention, not the perfection of execution. It doesn't mean that we do things sloppily, saying, we are gopis were doing this, so I'll do the arti with my left hand, it's okay. So it's not that we deliberately do it, but even without us trying, even if we try our best, we are far from perfect. Right? Some people, they give up because of this, saying, what can I offer Krishna? I am imperfect, Krishna is perfect, there is nothing that I can offer. Which is true. But we can offer the perfection of our intentions to Him. We can offer the perfection of our desires to serve Him. And because of that, the gopis got admittance into the Rasamandal. So, of all the gopis that ran towards Krishna, different gopis had different experiences. There were some gopis that heard the sound of the flute and they immediately went unimpeded to the Rasamandal. There were some gopis that were stopped, because even though the family members could not hear the flute, but they could understand that the gopis are going to Krishna, because they became maddened with love with Krishna. They started saying, "Hey Mukunda, hey Govinda." So they knew. So the husbands knew that the wives were leaving them to go to Krishna. So they started to stop them. But the gopis pushed them aside and they went. There was a third category of gopis that could not overcome. That either the husbands or the fathers or the brothers, they locked them in the room and they put a lock on the door. So these gopis, they gave up their bodies. So Sukdev Goswami says, the reason they could not go, and again this is all for us, the reasons they could not go to meet Krishna is because their bodies still had the reactions to pious activities and the reactions to sinful activities. So, by lamenting the inability to go and meet Krishna, they burned away all their sinful reactions. By meditating on their meeting with Krishna, they burnt away all their pious reactions. And in the subtle form, not in a subtle form, in a spiritual form, they went to the Rasmandal. So everybody went, but in different ways. So there were some gopis that were Nitya Siddhas. They're eternal associates of Krishna. So the Acharyas say that again, all the gopis were perfect. Even when the gopis who went through this, even they were perfect. So we should not think that there were some gopis less perfect than others. But then again, this is one of those things that some gopis took that as a service. Because anybody who has even traces of material contamination could not have entered the rasa dance. Because what to speak of that, even great demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiv, even Lakshmi Devi could not enter the rasa dance. So how can a gopi that had material contamination could have entered? So it's not that they had material contamination, but they did that in order to make a point to show to us that if we have, which we do, if we have material contamination, how do we get rid of it? So they got rid of it by regret. That we were discussing the holy name, not last time, I think one of the earlier time, and we said that our progress as we advance through chanting is on the platform of tears. That we first shed tears of regret. Then we shed tears of hankering. Then we shed tears of ecstasy. And then we shed tears of separation. And the 8 verses they talk about these, what stage it is. But it is on a platform of tears. It's not, what's the word? It's not that we are in the, what's the word when people keep beating themselves up?
Self-sabotage.
Self-immolation, self-depreciation, there's self-deprecating. There's a word that's, for people who put themselves down. It's not that that's our program. It's not our program that we go in and we say we are useless and we should cry all the time. But the acharyas say that the tears that we cast for out of spirituality, I don't have personal experience, but they say that when you cast material tears, they're hot tears. When you cast spiritual tears, they're cool tears. They cool your being. So when we speak about these tears of tears of regret, or tears of hankering, or tears of ecstasy, or tears of separation, these are not material tears. They are spiritual tears. They're the cooling tears that fall from our eyes. So the gopis, out of this intense regret, they were able to burn away their reactions to any past sinful activities. That's how our spiritual life begins. When we start regretting our condition, both ways. When we start regretting our material condition, when we start regretting our spiritual condition. That somehow or the other, we have got this valuable human form of life. But we do not use our eyes to see the deities. We don't use our tongue to chant the glories of the devotees and Krishna. We don't use our ears for Krishna Katha. We don't use our hands to clean the temple. We don't use our feet to circumambulate the temple and to go to holy places. So when that regret starts coming in, then our reactions to our past sinful activities start getting burnt away. And then when we start meditating on Krishna, then so what is the reaction of pious activities? So you're talking, so Bindu was talking about piety. So the reactions of, what is the reaction of people in the mode of goodness? That the reaction for piety is happiness. The reaction for piety is comfort, is material security. Right? So we have, so those are the kind of things that attract the people in the mode of goodness. But when we start meditating on Krishna, then all that pales away. It becomes insignificant. So even though we may have pious reactions in us, we don't seek the results of it. We may have pious reactions occurring to us that may give us name or fame or opulence. But all this Vishayanand is just a drop when it comes to Paramanand. So that also fades away. So in this way, the gopis, they all ran to Krishna. So what does Krishna do when he sees the gopis coming and congregating around him?
Tells them to go back.
He asks them to go back. So I think that's the last point I'll make, then I'll stop. So he says three things to the gopis. He says that it's a very nice and pleasant night, and the sights are very pleasing. I'm sure you have come here to witness these wonderful sights. Now that you've seen them, you should go back. The gopis don't move. So then he says that you're all chaste women. You have duties in your house. You have fathers and husbands and children. And you probably have not completed all those duties. You should go back. Gopis still don't move. And then he says that you're in the middle of a jungle. There are dangerous animals over here. Some of them may eat you. They are dacoits. Some of them may plunder you. It's not a safe place for young women and girls to be out all by themselves. So you should go back. So the three things that Krishna speaks about is the three modes. So out of the mode of goodness, one learns to appreciate the finesse of nature. Like person in the mode of goodness will like beautiful things, like when Krishna says that it's a beautiful night, the trees are blossoming, flowers are blossoming, mode of goodness. Mode of passion, one committed to executing their duties. You have to cook, you have to feed, you have to clean, you have to accomplish this task. Mode of ignorance, fear. There are dacoits, then there are animals that might go. And the fact that gopis were unaffected by it means that they transcended all three modes. So they were not in the mode of passion, not in the mode of goodness, not in the mode of ignorance, but they were in the mode of Shuddha Sattva. There. So they just stay there. And then of course they do what devotees do when they feel that Krishna is not reciprocating, they scold Krishna. So that's the next set of the... So of the 5 chapters, so the Rasa dance is from, or it's called Gopi Geet, it's from chapter 29 to chapter 33 in the 10th canto. And just the last chapter, the 33rd chapter, is the actual description of the Rasa dance. The chapters before that is the build-up towards it. It's called the 5, considered with the 5 breaths of the rasa. So there is the calling, there is the meeting, there is the separation, there is the reunion, and then there is the rasa dance. It's our journey to Krishna. That we all hear the calling of Krishna, and in our own ways, especially as practicing devotees, we are going towards Krishna. We may not be completely abandoning all our material responsibilities, but in a way we are abandoning our attachment to the material responsibilities. We are aligning them to our spiritual needs there. We are trying to transcend the modes of material nature by not being too much subservient to them. And as it happens in the life of devotees, that then, when Krishna gives us, so when we start our devotional life, Krishna gives us a lot of taste, and then he takes it away. So when the gopis went to Krishna, then, so the rasa dance, there's a false start, but it starts. And the gopis, they start feeling proud, and Krishna disappears from there. And then he disappears, and there are 2 chapters that Krishna is not there. One chapter is Krishna searching, the gopis searching for Krishna. The other chapter is the gopis associating with Krishna in his absence. He's not present over there. So when we make devotional advancement, at some point we might think that Krishna is not there. That we may not feel the same taste that we felt in the initial days. We may not feel the same reciprocation from Krishna. But then when Krishna comes back, the gopis say, why did you do this? We are your surrendered soul. Unnecessarily, 2 chapters we wasted. I mean, they don't say 2 chapters. But, they say, we, so much time we wasted thinking about it. And then Krishna, he says that, I did this for only one reason. So that your hankering for me would increase. So that's what devotees understand reverses. Sometimes things don't go our way. And we say, Krishna, what's the point? I'm your devotee and things are not going our way. But Krishna does that to increase our bhakti. Some people say that, but what if the reverses are so much that I give up my bhakti? So 2 things. One is Krishna will not test you beyond your limits. And the second is that even if you give up, there is no loss. Because bhakti is eternal. Narad Muni makes this point that I forget the Sanskrit, but he says that if one who's performing bhakti gives up devotion, there is no loss. But one who is performing karma kand and he gives it up, everything is lost. Taktva swadharmam charanam bhujam parer. That taktva, that when you swadharmam, if you give up your dharma and taktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer, and you take shelter of Krishna, bhajanam apakvo, bhajanam apakvo tatha yadi. Apakvo means immature. At an immature form, your bhajan you give up. Yatra vardham abudamushyakim. That abudamushyakim, that it is abud in a very early stage, amushya, incomplete. You give up your bhakti. Kovarta apto sodharmata. That what is the loss for you? And then he compares that, and what is the gain for a person? Swadharmata, that who is following his swadharma. So there is no loss for a person who gives up bhakti in an immature stage. There is no gain for a person who follows his swadharma even to perfection. Because, and this comes in the first canto, dharma svanushrita pumsham vishvaksena kathasuya. Now utpade yadirati shrame vahi keval. That one who follows their own dharma, but it does not, there is no visakshena katha ruchi. But that swadharma does not result in ruchi of Krishna katha. So what is that dharma? Shrame vahi kevalam. So it is just simply endeavor. So our understanding is that it's not for us to become the gopis, but it is for us to follow the teachings that they have left behind for us. Many people, they see rasa dance and they do rasa dance, right? Which is to some extent okay. Is meditating on the pastime, and it is helping us. Connect to the pastime. But the real reason of the pastime is the message that Sukadeva Goswami has given. That Krishna enacted the pastime for a reason. The acharyas have distilled that and given it to us. And in this month of Kartik, to some extent, that could be a meditation. So I'll stop here. See if there is any concluding questions or comments. Ravi Prabhu?
Prabhu, you mentioned that regret is the starting point of spiritual life, but it appears that sometimes that because your sadhana is not good, like it always you regret, like, oh, I'm not able to chant. So it is like sometimes I get the feeling that you are adding more stress onto you, like, because most of the day runs with it, right? Like, oh, evening I have to chant, like that. So how do is still regret is recommended to hold it or try to escape?
It is the question was that if we are constantly in the mood of regretting, will it pull us down? Can we actually use it to make advancement? So if we regret for the sake of regretting, then it will pull us down. If it is a genuine regret, what is the result of the regret? Then how to address the cause of the regret, right? So let's assume I meet you and for some reason I don't pay attention to you, I don't say Hare Krishna to you, and I walk away, and then later on I realize that this is bad. I crossed a devotee, I did not say Hare Krishna, and then next time I turn back, or the next time I meet you, I go out of my way and say Hare Krishna. So that action is coming out of regret. and it puts me in a better place. It protects me from a possible offense, right? But if I take that regret and say that next time I see Ravi Prabhu coming, I will go some other way so that I don't have to say Hare Krishna, right? So that is regret that is going to put me in a worse off place. So it all depends on what you do with that regret. So if you are more situated in a goodness, even in the material mode of goodness, then your desire is to use that to improve the situation. If you're in the mode of passion, then your desire is to use that to justify your position. That, no, why should I say Hare Krishna? I said yesterday morning, 2 days is enough. You use that. If you're in the mode of ignorance, you will use that to blame the other person. Right? He should have said Hare Krishna to me first. Why should I say to him? There's big problems with him, right? So it all depends on which context you use. So you start your day, maybe you didn't chant good rounds, right? There's regret out of that. It could either take you to try better, chant better rounds, which is what the intention over here is, or you could stay in that mode of regret, or you can give up chanting, saying, I don't like regretting, so let me take care of it at a root level. No chanting, no regret, I'm a happy person now. So mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. Right? It's just the sincerity of how you approach that emotion. Okay?
Thank you.
Malika?
Prabhuji,
You missed the mention to your name in the first verse.
Oh, I thought only Parikshit's name is mentioned in the Bible.
It is Bhajanapita Ratrika Sharadafula Malika.
That's a flower?
That's the jasmine flower.
Yeah,
The jasmine flowers were blooming. What was you asking?
The example you gave us on, say, if a devotee is going through a bad time and you wait for Krishna to shower his mercy on you, and it takes time, and it's only to the extent that you can take it that Krishna would not fulfill your desires. But at that time, the bhakti is tested, right? Is also put to test. So it makes me think: are there different types of? Are there illusion of bhakti? Is there an illusion of bhakti? So bhakti is eternal. Bhakti. But is it possible that you actually not so deeply into bhakti, and you just have an illusion because somehow you're surrounded by Krishna conscious people and you think you are a true devotee, but actually you're not, because when you put to test you fail, or your belief goes away. So, and also to make sure that the belief is maintained, do we need to be with association of others? Do we need to have a guide, guru, or friends who can put us in the right track? Because oftentimes in the bad times, people do very crazy things. And so really, how do you bring back your focus? How do you bring back your, it's in a realistic way, how does that work?
Okay. Thank you. It's a very practical question. Thank you for asking. So I think the first thing you asked was that is it possible that the bhakti is illusory? That you're surrounded by devotees, you may be doing something, and then you think you're doing bhakti. So more often than not, if you think you're doing bhakti, you're doing bhakti. So as devotees, so I'm trying to think of of the, it's a little bit of context sensitive, so I'm trying to think of the context. In a wider world, most of the activities fall in the category of the illusion of bhakti. That so many things, so many people do, and they say, sab bhakti hai. I'm going to my work, I'm taking care of my family, I am doing this and that, sab bhakti hai. And that's an illusion of bhakti. Because it is not grounded in the scriptures, it is not grounded in the instructions of Vaishnavacharyas or bona fide sadhus. So, in the association of practicing devotees, we also have the same concerns. That am I a devotee or am I pretending to be a devotee? And the fact that we are associating with devotees means that we are a devotee. The fact that we think that we are pretending to be a devotee means that we are sincerely wanting to make advancements. So, the moment a person starts thinking that I have become a devotee, big problem for the person. If you look at many of Prabhupada's senior disciples, and then you ask them, are you a Prabhupada disciple? And they'll immediately answer that I'm trying to be a disciple. So it's journey. Prabhupada wanted me to do something, expected me to do something, I'm working towards. Work in progress. So it is okay to have self-doubt. And it's natural to have self-doubt. Because we have the modes, we have a past propensities, and then we are doing something that is even more primeval, but more covered. So that conflict will be there. What we do with the doubt, I think in your question you answered that to a great extent, that we should not keep it to ourselves. In the 4th chapter, Krishna is very heavy on doubts. He says that people who doubt, they fail miserably in this life and subsequent lives. And not because he condemns doubting, but he condemns the mode of staying in that frame. So then what do you do with your doubts? So you seek resolution to the doubts. You seek with those that you have depending on the nature of the doubts. There are some doubts that you can seek with those you have superficial relationship, devotee relationship, but superficial. If you have more deep doubts, then with people that you are more closely connected with. That is why it is absolutely recommended to have shelter of a living guru. Because Krishna has said everything in the scriptures. But Prabhupada would say that scriptures are like medical books. You can buy all the medical books in the library, it won't make you a doctor. You have to practice under another doctor to become a doctor. So you need to have a living guru where you have doubts that you can go and seek resolutions from. And then in your association, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's why he put so much of emphasis on association, because that's your safety net. When you say I'm having doubts and the person sitting next to you says, guess what, even I'm having doubts. That means that at least you're traveling on the same journey together, hopefully in the same direction. There. If you're all by yourself, you're saying I'm having doubts, I should not have doubts. There are so many verses in the scriptures that say that you should have nishtha, you should have rushi, you should have ashakti. I'm not there, just give up on it. Right? But the scriptures talk about the initial stage, they talk about the journey, they talk about the stage of perfection. So so when we do this, the Dadi Pratiganayati, Guyam Akhiti Prachati. So the Guyam Akhiti Prachati is Vaishnava sung in the mode of confidential exchanges. That Guyam actually means secret, but confidential, Akhiti Prachati. So then we are able to, so it's like they say that misery loves companionship. You may not be able to address your doubt, but you know that Shivani has the same doubt that I have. So at least there are two people in this universe that have same doubt. So I have some company, right? And then maybe there's another person, and then you get a resolution to that. So I just want to again summarize the points in your question. That it's okay to have doubts. It's part of your spiritual progress. It's not okay to live with them. And the way to resolve them is through taking shelter of a living guru and by actively developing association with devotees. Helps? Okay, thanks. So we'll stop here. We'll do Damodarashtakam. No? Okay.
Let's listen it for you.
Sorry.
Quick one. So on the Rasalila is talking about Krishna and gopis. Nowhere it's mentioned about Gopal. Does that mean, the Gopals were not part of that? Even when Shivji wanted to be part of it, he has to get converted into a gopi. So what that message is giving and what acharyas talk about that?
It's just the rasa, Prabhu. I honestly don't know. I haven't read anything from acharyas on this, but at least the sense I get is just rasas. That so with gopis he enjoys the madhurya ras, and there are many pastimes of Krishna with the gopas also, right? They're also described in the Bhagavatam. The games that he plays, the fights that he has. Gopis are not there at the time, right? They're sakhya ras. They're enjoying his pastime with his parents. Damodar pastime, so many loving pastimes there. Neither the Gopal nor the gopis are there. Vatsalya ras is there. So devotees, they interact with Krishna and the rasa. Krishna is Rasaraj. He is able to interact with all of them in the reciprocal rasas. That's my sense. Yeah? Okay.
Small one, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
So we have this Nidhi one in Vrindavan, where it is said even today in the evening after 6 o'clock, there's a rasa that goes on. And you were mentioning, right, that it's a Nitya Leela that's happening in Vrindavan. So is there a relationship? Is there an element of truth?
Yes and no. So yes, in the sense that the whole Vrindavan is Krishna's area of pastimes. So there are pastimes that are going on over there, and no, in the sense that they've created this sense of mysticism over Nidhivan, that if you go at night time, you'll get blind because there is the rasa dance that's going on over there. And then the devotees say that, if going there at night time and seeing the rasa dance makes you blind, everybody would go there. Because being blind is a very, very small price to pay. To see, Lord Shiva and Lakshmi Devi performs austerity for millions of years. Lord Shiva they did not participate in the rasa dance. All they got was a chance to witness it. So becoming blind is a small thing to do that. So those are some of the more locking things. They're just, things that you come in the morning and you see ornaments scattered around. So those are just things that are probably done. I don't know, Vrindavan is Vrindavan. Probably people are just doing it for the sake. But yes, Krishna's pastimes are Nitya Leela. They are going on in Vrindavan.
Prabhu, is Nidhivan the original place where, because they have a temple within the Nidhivan where
It is one of the places. So Krishna did not perform only one rasa dance. So this particular is known as Maharas. The one that happened on Sharad Purnima, that is called Maharas. But Lord Balaram also has a rasa dance on the banks of river Yamuna. There are many rasa stals there. Not sure if Nidhivan is the Maharasa stal or whether they know where it was.
Krishna also did multiple times through.
Who?
Krishna also did multiple times Rasa dance.
Yeah, Krishna did multiple. There are multiple instances of Rasa dance with Krishna. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Higher Prabhu ki
Jai.